Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, you want us at the office twice a week, and you're going to pull keycard reports to validate? Sure, I'll show up on these reports. Arrogant coach/teacher threatened to send me to the principal, I obliged. No pay for shipping? Fine, you can pay for my travel to collect it. You want to fire me in the middle of my shift, but have me stay until the end? Okay, I'll bite. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. You want us at the office twice a week, and you're going to pull keycard reports to validate? Sure, I'll show up on these reports. So I've been working at this big company, 10K employees, since 2014. My entire team is in other cities or other offices in my city, so I've basically been working from home since then. There's no point going in the office, I'd just be on the phone in my cubicle instead of at home. Did go in once in a blue moon when we do lunch together, but aside from that, no reason to go, and nobody's ever mentioned anything, even though the official position is that you have to be at the office. Had asked about being set as a teleworker full-time, but apparently our VP wanted everybody to come in. Then COVID came along, and we were all sent home. No change for me really, but even though 2021 was our most successful year, of course, the company didn't take the opportunity to downsize on all their office buildings, and have been asking people to come back to the office. Then that became a new mandatory policy, everyone has to be in at least 2 days a week. And then we learned they're going to be pulling the office keycard data to see who actually does go in. What's next? They're going to ask us to clock in and clock out? So what do? Just scheduled myself a 1-hour meeting twice a week from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., and I drive to the office, 15-20 minute with no traffic, swipe in, get back out. We don't need to swipe our card to get out, and come back home. Hopefully their little let's pull out the keycard data exercise will stop when they're satisfied, and I'll be able to just stay home. Arrogant coach/teacher threatened to send me to the principal, I obliged. Bear with me, there's a lot of backstory here. This over a decade ago, time is a cruel mistress, so some details are foggy. Going into senior year of high school, at a small rural high school where the smart kids all get sent off to the distance learning building their junior and senior year to take college courses. Junior year, the woman in charge of us in distance learning had been teaching at our school district for 15+ years. She knew us, our families, taught us in multiple grades and coached about 3/4 of us in track or tennis. Keep in mind, our entire student body, K-12, wouldn't have broken 500 kids even if they padded the numbers with voluntary pre-K and GED students. She knew us, our antics, and generally trusted us to get our work done. She made sure we actually watched our classes and didn't get into a bind on our assignments. Outside of that, as long as we were doing something productive and had our main stuff done, our time was ours to use as we saw fit. In my case, it was mostly spent playing guitar and reading up on the playbook for whatever athletic competition I had that week. I was an academically good, but insufferably lazy student. Summer passes, first day of senior year comes around, the teacher we all adored had moved away, her husband got a job elsewhere that paid big dollar, in her place is some tall red-haired jackass none of us had ever seen before. Turns out he's the new head coach for girls basketball and our new distance learning supervisor. Our college courses didn't start for a couple weeks, so we spent the entire first day pontificating on how lucky we all were to have him since he had spent the last 10 years in the university world and knew how it worked and would make sure we weren't just slacking off because we were seniors. The fact that he went from university to HS should have been a red flag to the people that hired him. Whatever. A couple weeks go by of this coach, we'll call him Bob, making us do pointless practice assignments like writing a paper on respect in APA format or researching a new car for his wife while citing our sources. All under the guise of making sure we were prepared. The students all politely informed him that these courses were through a community college and were generally no more difficult than a normal AP high school class, except for the STEM courses. Fast forward 2 weeks and courses start. Finally. We thought. Bob's antics throughout the year would have been bearable had he not made a habit of insulting students who did something that wasn't to his liking or held a political view contrary to the university culture he came from, which was all of us. He went to demanding that we submit all assignments to him before our actual professors, which he then did not go through quickly, causing a great many of us to lose points for late assignments. We started ignoring this and sending him a copy at the same time we submitted the assignment, and telling us all that we were in no way mature enough for this kind of learning. We all had to maintain an institutional GPA of 3.0 or better to stay in the program. We averaged 3.8, and if it was up to him, he'd take our entitled asses right back over to the main building for real classes. The straw that broke the camel's back came at the end of the fall semester. We'd all taken our finals, passed, and were looking forward to an easy few weeks. Bob came in that morning, in a worse mood than usual. I found out years later this was the day his divorce proceedings began, and started berating one of the girls for how she was dressed. She ignored him, as did the rest of us. We were all just making it through to the end of the semester. Bob then began one of his speeches about how terrible and entitled we all were. No one was paying attention, which made him even more angry, but he knew he couldn't really punish us for anything. So, he zeroed in on one kid that had been placed in the classroom for remedial learning as it was a quiet, consistent environment. He was the one student in the room actually working on something. The convo, paraphrased as this was over 10 years ago, went as follows. Bob, so, what are you doing? Somewhat rudely, I'm trying to study for my tests coming up so I don't get held back. Bob, for what? So you can eventually go flip burgers at the Dairy Queen, makes a six-figure income as a welder now? Please, you're not going to get it done anyway, so have some respect and pay attention when an adult is speaking. That was it for me. You see, happened to be my cousin. I was intimately familiar with his academic and personal struggles, and knew how hard he was working to straighten up. Our family is a rather well-known and affluent one in our community, and was cruelly regarded as a screw-up by some folks outside of our family, despite his overwhelmingly kind disposition. Now, this move in sh*t-stick was insulting the most vulnerable member of the class, and my family. It was time to hurt this guy in the worst way I could think of without hurting myself too badly or getting arrested. You see, my mother had been teaching for 25 years in the district at that point, and my stepfather is a retired guidance counselor, so I knew the rules. I'd previously refrained from honestly discussing his conduct with my parents because Bob's daughter had actually become part of our friend circle, and I knew how hard life would be on her if her dad lost his job, as his reputation made her life hard enough. The college courses kids also all did theater and athletics together, so she was part of our life. Again, tiny school, half the varsity offensive line was part of a district-winning production of Flowers for Algernon, and our star running back is also a regional qualifier in robotics. But she was graduating with the rest of us and going to school out of state, so collateral damage would be minimal. Knowing what would happen next, I casually remarked, Coach Bob, it seems to me that if you knew half as much about basketball as you think you know about you'd probably still have your job at university, or would have gotten your contract renewed for another year at the last school board meeting. Where will you go after the school year ends? The room went dead quiet. That info wasn't in the newspaper yet. Bob's face turned an absolutely vibrant shade of red. His voice shaking, he tells me, outside, now. I calmly set down my book and stepped out into the foyer of the building. Bob followed me out, closed the door, and proceeded to scream every insult and cuss word he could think of in my face for at least 4 straight minutes. I was the most smug, lazy, entitled little sh*t he had ever seen apparently. I may have been able to pull the wool over the eyes of my pastor, every other teacher, his daughter, and all my coaches, who were constantly irritated with me for being lazy, but I couldn't fool him. I was never going anywhere in life and I was just going to ride my family name like a parasite. To be honest, his lung capacity was kind of impressive. I don't think he took a single breath for the entirety of his rant. Once he stopped to catch his breath, I asked, "Coach Bob, may I go back to reading now?" Bob screamed, "No, your ASS is going straight to principal _______, and I will write down exactly what you said and you will sign the thing. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir, I'd be happy to sign it." Bob gave me a questioning gaze. "Actually, I'd be happy to go down to principal ______. I need to ask him for a letter of recommendation for a scholarship, and of course, he will ask me what led to me saying something so disrespectful. Of course, I can't lie to him. And then I'll mention our little chat out here." By this point, the teacher in the other classroom, who I also happened to be related to, came out to see what the commotion was, and heard at least the tail end of his glorious speech. She was about to say something, but I turned and gave her a smile and wink. I had it in the bag. 18-year-old me was riding high. Bob sent me back into the distance learning room and followed me in. I stood by the door, awaiting my office referral. A minute went by and it never came. "Sit down, Jones. Coach Bob, I believe classroom insubordination requires an office referral. If that's the way you want to go." Bob's voice started to raise, but at this point he understood his situation. He wrote up the office referral and I walked happily down to the admin office. The principal was surprised to see me, and even more surprised that I was sent there on disciplinary action. I told him what had happened and I got detention for 1 day as punishment for open disrespect of a teacher, which I kind of deserved, and a thank you for my honesty. The next 2 weeks were heavenly. Bob barely spoke a word, and spent most of his time glaring at me or looking at job listings. At the start of the spring semester, he wasn't in distance learning. In fact, he was nowhere to be seen. Turned out he'd accepted a last-minute opportunity somewhere else before the Christmas break and had to move there in time for spring practices to start. What a coincidence. I found out years later that Bob was soon let go from his next coaching job, and he had gotten divorced. Other faculty had apparently repeatedly complained about his conduct and he was on incredibly thin ice long before my little stunt. Honestly, I kind feel sorry for the guy after writing this memory down. Congratulations to everyone that made it to the end. No pay for shipping? Fine, you can pay for my travel to collect it. Obligatory happened about a year ago. I work at a tech company. I was doing testing for a new app feature at the time. Part of which involved getting 2 mobile SIMs to test with. We resell mobile phone SIM cards to businesses, so we ship thousands of these things. Shipping for one of these is about $1 and no strenuous task in any way. I put the order through our regular sales process but attached it to the test account so it's free, and set the shipping address as my house, all standard procedure. I work from home and thought this was the quickest way for me to get these. In comes a message from our warehouse manager, advising to prevent the cost of shipping I should come in and collect them. I say no, just ship them. He's really not willing to budge on this. This guy has worked here since the start and basically still thinks we're a company of 10 people, not 5,000. You can tell by the way he emails the whole company when a toilet is blocked, or when a visitor has come to the office warehouse door instead of the main office. Anyway, I say fine and leave them in the office and I'll come in to get them. However, I had the stroke of genius, or pettiness, the next week when I went in to collect them. I used our Uber for Business account to take myself from home to the office and back again to collect this one envelope. It cost about $130, and nearly 2 hours of my day, done during business hours, of course. I told my manager exactly what I did. She was very much on my side of he should have just shipped the fucking SIM cards. I heard that when the warehouse manager's boss, who I have a good relationship with, found out what I did, he was just speechless at the warehouse manager and joked I probably still took the path of least resistance. You want to fire me in the middle of my shift, but have me stay until the end? Okay, I'll bite. About 15 years ago, when I was about 20, I got a job at a new Panera opening in my town. I worked there exactly 5 days. After 2 days of working the salad line and making sandwiches, which was honestly fun, I was told I was being moved to the kitchen. I didn't mind because I love to cook and bake, so I was excited for about 1 whole minute. When I showed up on my 3rd day, I get walked to the kitchen. I'm so stoked. I stop at the chef line, but the manager keeps walking. I stop at the baker line, but the manager keeps walking. He stops in front of the dishwasher. He says I'm gonna be washing dishes for a couple days because they hadn't hired one yet, or he quit instantly, but I'll never know. I give it my do best attitude for 2.5 days. It's a big pill to swallow. I suddenly realized the back end of a bakery/restaurant to be much harder than I ever thought, and I've worked in the back prior, just not at this level before, so mucho props to all you back of the house workers. I have always worked counters, even maintenance, but never that hard. And I started to fail because I was feeling dejected and being talked down to. Come my 3rd day on dishes, and the last day at Panera. I show up on time, and it was a pretty busy night, so there was lots to get to. I try so hard, but by then we're open, so freshly dirty plate tubs are coming back in groves. Starts piling up on the counter. Then on the floor. Halfway through my shift, my lunch is late. Before I go to lunch, they pull me into the office and tell me they're letting me go, like this: "We're so sorry to say, but we have to let you go. You're just not keeping up. But, would you please stay and finish your shift first?" I was floored. But, I did it. Just not with my do best attitude. I proceed to wash one pan at a time in the industrial washer we have. More tubs are piling up, my coworkers asking what's going on. I explain and they understand and support thankfully, so even more tubs pile up, now on the floor, before I even finish the pans. Come the end of my shift, I knew my managers were gonna have to stay and wash the dishes. But they were courteous enough and told me that, as a parting gift and thanks for trying, I could take home whatever I wanted from the store. So I did. Over $120 I think in fresh breads and pastries of all delicious varieties. I gave most of it away. Heard from a friend like a year later they were pissed about that for a while, but couldn't do anything, which got them more pissed. It wasn't my finest hour, but I don't regret it one bit. Moral of the story: don't fire your employees mid-shift, but ask them to stay, and expect any kind of quality. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.